Hello, just waiting on some people to get in here. I didn't announce it, so thought I'd just pop on, see who'd show up. Hey, everybody. Just thought I'd pop on and see who would show up, and maybe we could have a little conversation. You guys have any questions or anything, or any comments, anything you want to talk about, just put them in the comments. We'll get rolling with it. It's been a little chilly here. Well, I say chilly, but mid 70s. But in comparison to the mid 90s a couple days ago, it's a lot nicer. Nobody's got any questions? How's Privet looking where anybody is? It's drying up here. I don't know if it's this one. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. Oh, not too much, guys. I went and checked some out of the way bee yards that I've been neglecting today and was, of course, disappointed. They weren't doing that well. Split some of those off to take back with me. I got a batch of sales going. So I'm really needing to start tightening up my bee route. Uh, Fuel prices are just astronomical, man. It's diesel's like 550. Hey Ted, that's a pretty long ways from me, Massachusetts. It's probably just now getting spring in earnest for you, ain't it? What's the best way to keep bees from tearing down cells? I wish I knew. Um, the best thing that I know to do for them is to make sure that they're hopelessly queenless. Um, and that just takes time. When you make up your splits, if you bring them up above excluders and you let the larvae age out and then create your nucleus colonies, you're you're building them from frames of brood that they can't make any queen cells from. Um, then, if you give them just a little bit of time after that for that pheromone to dissipate, generally they're pretty good about not tearing them down. But sometimes you get bees, man, that they just really want to tear anything foreign down. Um, I've been experimenting with 48-hour cells, like Kent Williams talked about, and for those bees that want to tear cells down, I'm having pretty good luck with putting open queen cells in there, with them finishing them out and accepting them. So that's the best advice I can give you on ways to keep bees from tearing cells down cells. Have you tried cell protectors, Keith? I'm watching the comments here. I've personally used a lot of cell protectors, and um, I find that if the bees really want to tear that cell down, they're going to come up to, yeah, they went to the ends. Yeah, they'll go up to the bottom and drag her tail out. Um, Man, it just takes a long time making them hopelessly queenless and tearing cells down. I'm liking what I'm seeing with the 48-hour cells, but the problem is that you're delaying your nuke progression when you do that. You're losing a solid week or more out of that, but you're ensuring that they're going to take the genetics that you're trying to put in there and spread out. So give some open queen cells a try and see what the bees do with them. For me, I'm finding that they're absolutely filling them out pretty good. I mean, after 48 hours, they're pretty full of royal jelly anyway, but they'll be dang near overflowing. Um, so give that a try. Let's see. All is pretty good. The original Tennessee Tim. For the most part, things are pretty good. We had a real delay early on this spring, but things have turned the corner and the bees are building up well and things are catching up. For me, with my nukes, they're going from 0 to 60 super fast. So I'm just trying to get nukes delivered to customers. Get ready for the honey flow. Sourwood Branch Bee Farm. Enjoying your videos. I keep bees a lot like you do, raising bees and queens, trying to get it to a full time income. Man, if you got good bees and a really tight selection process, and you're not afraid to cull out the weak and the inferior, then you'll do real well. Ted says the flow is on. What kind of flow do you have up there? I assume poplar and black locust. Like I didn't know if you had anything a little bit different. Uh, my neighbors not too far south, they have gallberry and tie and popcorn and all that, and we don't have any of that up here in the upper delta. When you do comb honey supers, in what position in the stack do you place them to cut down on traffic on the comb? Okay, I like to ensure that the flow is on really hard. I don't like to start comb honey supers at the beginning of a nectar flow as it's ramping up. So I place an extracting super on first, and I let them get going in that, and that is above the excluder. I don't really like to place a comb honey super on top of the excluder because they tend to put pollen in it. Not always, but it's just a risk that they do. If they have a what I call like a buffer super, they tend to excuse me, not put that pollen up there because they're restricted in that brood nest. They'll kind of view sometimes you can see a curvature in your comb honey super if it's dead above the excluder where they are making space for her to lay that she's never going to be able to lay in. Um, so I like to have a buffer super, and I like to wait for the flow to be on. I mean, hard and really going. Because the key to great comb honey is to get it done fast. The faster it's done, the more tender it is, the more beautiful it is. So that's what I do. Also, you're talking to reduce traffic. Providing upper entrances is just critical. You have to, if you're using queen excluders, it's critical that you provide upper entrances. I stagger my supers. That way, they're not having to track all the way through the brood nest and every which way they're going. They can get in and get out. I hope that answered your question. Chris Meadows, your eye healed up well. Oh, yeah. Um, I've had a lot. I had some blood vessels ruptured in this one. Then I shot myself in the head with a staple gun a few days ago, which I bled like a stuck hog. Just it wasn't that bad though. It bounced off my head, you know. But if your equipment has safety features, you probably shouldn't disable them. It's good to keep those intact because what little bit of time they save you one day, they may cost you a whole lot of time another. I very easily could have put my eye out. The original Tennessee Tim, I'm pretty sure I saw some sourwood about to bloom in Middle Tennessee. Flowers are about to open. Wasn't a lot of them. I did see a couple. Tim, I'm not doubting you, or well, I guess I am doubting you, but I'm not saying you're wrong. But typically, it's much later. I've never seen sourwood bloom in May or even be close to it. It's usually, later in June and July. So you might want to double check your trees and make sure what you're seeing is in fact sourwood. And if it is, that's weird. That's early. But man, weird things happen all the time. Um, I was driving back through Mississippi and I saw one sumac bush shrub with a flowered head on it. And then the whole rest of the way, I was looking at sumac and nothing else had a bloom, not even near it. So then I was wondering, was I just being delirious or what? Nature does funny things. What causes bald brood and what can you do about it? I think what causes bald brood, and I'm no expert on it, but I think it has to do with your nurse bee population um, and older bees and things of that nature. Um, you try shaking nurse bees in it, boosting the colony. It could have to do with the age of the bees in there. And also verify that it is, in fact, bald brood and it's not hygienic behavior that you're observing. Some of them they get a little excessive. They get a little wild with it. So they can really have a whole patch just stripped open where they're getting wild with it. Ted Jackson, autumn olive and white Dutch clover right now. You know what? I miss the autumn olive. We don't have that down here. We have Chinese privet. Where I'm from originally in the mountains, we had autumn olive, and it was a tremendous flow for us there in Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee. It just was so early that most years your bees weren't built up enough to capture that flow and to really be able to produce from it. For me, my overwintered nucleus colonies that I was doing, me and my buddy Shane Mullins, we played around with that. If you can have some new queens going into their first season, really ramped up and going, and they build up really quick, you can make a lot of honey off that autumn olive, especially around in coal country where there's so much of it on reclaimed mining land, just miles of it. It's kind of what we had for autumn olive. It would have a greenish tinge to it and a real burning quality, but it was a really unique honey, and I enjoyed it. Todd Prater, I don't have Pro Nukes and not sure if you do, but if you do, at what temp do you stop using them? I don't have any Pro Nukes. I discussed it with a buddy of mine going in on an order with him. He went ahead and bought them. I did not, and he has been unhappy with them ever since. And that was enough to discourage me from them. Uh, I really like the Jester boxes. They're slightly cheaper, or were. I don't know if they're still going to be because, boy, they keep going up in price so much. If if Pro Nukes are ever cheaper than Jester boxes, I'll give them a try. But as long as Jester boxes are cheaper, um, I'd just as soon use them, even though I gotta fold them, because it's just such an incredible design. Um, they're just a really good box for transportation and starting bees in. Tim said, "I know what you mean. It made me almost wreck. I'm going back to see tomorrow." Yeah, my wife, she's always fussing at me when I'm driving if she's in the vehicle with me because I'm looking at the side of the road, um, paying more attention to what's blooming, what's growing, and what I can see than the traffic. Hello, everybody that's popped in. Hello, Russell. Hello, Cayman. Rainy today. You got the rain. It moved out of here, but it's been cooler, and it's honestly it's been nice. The bees were really grumpy today because it's overcast. It's really overcast, but it was like 71 degrees. and it was a real pleasure. I wasn't just dripping wet with sweat. So it was nice. The rain, though, we needed that rain. It's going to make everything jump. It wasn't very good for the tulip poplars. Those of you on here that don't know what a tulip poplar blossom looks like, it kind of looks like a tulip, and it's an upright blossom on the tree. Um, it produces a lot of nectar. It's a very large blossom, but unfortunately, it's delicate and it's upright. So anytime you get a hard rain, it washes it out, and if it's an especially hard rain, it will beat it clean off the tree, um, and it's not going to rebloom. There may be buds that have not bloomed yet that will open up, but anytime you have a hard rain or bad winds or any kind of rain really during the tulip poplar flow, it really shoots it in the foot. Flower Street Farm Bees. I'll take the hassle of folding a Jester over the convenience of Pro Nukes. I wish I had more experience with them. I've heard good things and I've heard bad things. I think it's a great thought. I can't remember the beekeeper's name that invented those Pro Nukes. I know that they also did the Bee Bus packages. Um, Obviously, he's a very innovative guy. So I'm not trying to down anything that he's done because I don't have a list of equipment that I've invented and got out to market. So I'm not trying to knock anything he's got going. I've never used them. I really just I'm very partial to the Jester boxes. I did look at some Chinese knockoffs recently and was not impressed. You would think if they were going to rip it off that they would just follow the pattern. But they had to tweak a few little things and it didn't work out. Cayman Reynolds doesn't like the Pro Nukes. Have you done a video on that, Cayman? Or can I just ask you what you don't like about them? I've heard they're brittle because they're a harder plastic. I've heard spacing issues. They have a lot of room in them. Brad, I think it's either wit or white, but hi from Omaha. Cayman mentioned your channel and I've enjoyed it. Well, thank you, Brad, and thank you, Cayman. Good evening to everybody popping in. Todd, you can't go wrong with Jester boxes. They're just too blasted high, but man, what can you do? There ain't nothing else on the market. They got everybody by the balls. It's just cardboard nukes are horrible. Um, a lot of people don't like the pro nukes, and Jester can do what they want to. I really can't understand how the cost jumps, and this is pre-COVID and everything. Every year these jump in price considerably. Like when I first started buying them, they were, geez, man, they were like $7, and they've jumped in the last few years over $3. I mean, brittle, too hot. You know, Cameron, you mentioned something about the Jester boxes, and I'd never thought about it because I reuse them a lot as well. About the propolis issue with the bees. When you reuse them, the bees oftentimes have sealed up the vents, and I took a look at that, and it's spot on. They sure do. Um, so if you're like me and you're a tightwad and you're recycling them, and your customers bring them back, you may want to take a look at those old ones and scrape anything blocking the ventilation holes off. Let's see. Phil, when do you stop making sales and making queens? Well, Phil, I'm doing some new stuff this year. I'm playing around more with queen rearing. I raise queens throughout the spring as soon as I can get started with it, but they go into my nucleus colonies. I'm playing around with a system where I'll be recycling the bees, similar to like Michael Palmer resource hives and things he's talked about. So the last video I did on my T-post toppers, I'm wanting to use medium mating nukes, divided medium mating nukes. I want to stock these with bees. And then after I get 2 to 3 rounds, like at this point in the year, I'd be lucky to get um, 3. I doubt it. Probably 2. It'd be getting hot, and nobody will want those queens that late. Um, but anyway, I would pull them down, pull the queens, pull the dividers, and stack them up as 2 medium boxes, and leave 1 queen in it. Let them overwinter. Let them get fat off that smart weed flow in the lowlands. Then in the spring, I would have those same boxes. They're easily identifiable, and divide those up and start back with those same bees. So I'll take the loss out of my operation, the initial loss, and then hopefully they'll continue. I'll have my mating nukes populated that way. Like I said, this is a model that I'm trying to start off of. I'm not doing this currently, so it's something that I'm trying to get started. Koi Honey Farms has a short video of their mating nuke process, their queen catching process, and I've watched it a dozen times, just trying to pick everything out of it. And that's the queen rearing model that I like the best. What they got going on. They're down in the Gulf, uh, down in southern Mississippi. They're using 3-way divided medium nukes on elevated stands. Some of them are plywood stands, some of them are cut off pine trees, it looks like, in posts, but um, they're elevated for their workers, their queen catchers, and it seems to help a lot. And if a large commercial outfit like the Koi sees benefit in that, running 12,000 colonies, then um, that's something I'm taking notice of, because I would like all my mating nukes to be elevated as well for ease on my back. But it kind of validates that little thought: are you being lazy, or are you just not tough enough, or whatever? But then when you see an operation that size that has gone to great lengths to elevate all their mating nukes for their queen catching crew, um, there must be something to that. So anyway, they run 3-way medium mating nukes. They catch 3 times. After the third time, they pull queens, consolidate down to 2 mediums, put them on pallets in their own yard, and they use them as production colonies, make a little honey, and overwinter them. Then again in the spring, they divide them out, put their dividers in, and set them back up in that pine forest that they got going. And I really like what they got going on. So I'm trying to model what I want to do after that. I've just been dipping my toes in queen rearing for a few years. I think the most queens I've sold at one time has been 30 or 40. So I've not been really doing a whole lot of that. I get a lot of onesie twosie. Um, Hobbyists in backyards, they've lost their queen. So that's one reason that I've decided that I want to go with the 4-frame divided medium instead of 3-way or smaller. Um, you got to consider things like that when you're building your model and your management system. It's very important to look at what's working for other people and take from that. But you've got to remember what your market is and how things are going to work for you. I'm not like the Kois. I will not be selling thousands of queens. I will not even be selling hundreds of queens at one time. I won't be selling early queens either, because those will all go into my mating nuke. I mean, into my nukes for customers. So May through July is going to be my queen season, where I'll be selling queens. Most people are done with their splitting. The smaller guys and sideliner stuff, they're done with their splitting at that point in time. So I need to be able to have my nukes having. I need my nukes to have room to grow. I need to be able to feed these nukes. I need to be able to um, miss a catch. Queener, if you don't know, when you're grafting, you're going on a schedule and a system, usually like a 21-day schedule, where you have to pull queens and place cells. I have to modify that somewhat for my market, because my market is primarily smaller beekeepers that don't need very many queens, and they need them at different times. So I really don't like banking. I will have to bank some, but to eliminate a lot of that, I can just run a slightly larger mating nuke that the bees can grow into, and it not really hurt me. But that's, let me see what you guys are saying about what I'm saying here. Kamen says they're brittle and too hot. I think I read that. Chris Madera says, Todd, I used Jesters for the first time this year and I really liked them so far. Keep them out of direct hot heat or you cook the bees. Yeah, man, any nuke, you'll cook them, even in any hive. Um, Russell Koopman, pulling brood for making 3 nukes tomorrow. Queens are coming Thursday. Am I waiting long enough? Well, shoot, what is it? Today's Monday. So you pulled it today, and you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not really. I'd wait a good solid, um, 4 days. So you got, if you pull anything, you're going to try to pull sealed brood and pretty fat curls. But that queen, she lays wherever she can through here and there. You're gonna miss some eggs here and there. Them eggs, they'll be 3 days before their larva, and then they'll make a queen if they want to. They'll make a queen from 4 or 5 day old larva. It may not be a good one, but when they're desperate, they'll pull it. They'll pull it out. Um, so you know, if there's eggs in there, then no, it's not enough time. They'll still pull them out of cell, and they'll. But if you have mated queens coming in and you use push-in cages, go ahead, put them in over emerging brood. Put your queens under your push-in cages and wait your 4 or 5 days. Come back and check if they got any cells pulled out. Cut them down. Um, Look to see if that queen's laying in there. You may wait 6 days. It ain't going to hurt nothing to wait 6 days with a push-in cage. You might you might end up with a little small hive beetle larva in there, but just keep an eye on things. That way, you'll have time. But if you're using pushing cages, though, you can come back in and cut them cells out. Sourwood branch. I like the Jesters. I picked them up at their place in Florida. They're made in India. Yeah, it's stamped right on the box. But Kevin Jester's from down my way here. He's from Lepanto, Arkansas. Dominican beekeeper. Do you requeen all your production hives? If so, what time of year? Um, Not on a real schedule like I should. I do believe in it. Um, I'm not that great about it. In the past, I've been really lax on marking my queens and keeping good records of the ages of my queens. I've just been solely going off performance, but I'm realizing now that that's also part of performance. How long a queen is viable for, how long will she lay for, and it helps also to keep track with your swarm impulse. So, since I've joined the Russian Honeybee Breeders Association, um, I'm taking it more seriously and making more of an effort to mark all of my production queens. All my queens this year, I'm marking, and all the queens that I can find that are likely from last year or not, I don't know. If I don't know the age of the queens, I'm marking them purple, and I have that in my notes that I marked my unknown queens purple in 2022. Sourwood Branch, Bee Farm. I really like that T post idea. Good job. Thank you. I do occasionally get some bright ideas. It's a prototype. I've had some people concerned about livestock. We'll see. It does have that set screw. I'm just going to crank it down with a crescent wrench and use hive staples on the boxes. From what I can tell, they're pretty sturdy. I think it's going to be pretty good deal, but we'll see. I'm gonna run about a dozen of them this summer, and if it works out well, I'll work my way up to 50 or 100 of them next year. Um, so just keep an eye out, and I'll keep y'all updated on it. I haven't been really good on videos here lately. Been busy and just have a lot going on. I really need to make some content for you guys. I know sometime this week I am going to go through one of my nukes that I'm getting ready to release and just show you guys what I sell, or go through a few of them, show you what I sell and what I think that you should get as a customer from whoever you're purchasing your bees from. Todd Prater at Cayman Reynolds. Thank you for the queen rearing video. Finally listened to what you said on the video and got a 45 out of a 48 take. Thank you. That's very good. Very good. And Cayman says that is awesome. That is an awesome take, man. It's really good. I had a really good take the other day, and it was only like 55 out of 60. So I was pretty pleased with myself. But Cayman Reynolds, hope to have pallet pricing available for jesters at the conference so we can all save some coin. That will be sweet, man, because it's definitely needed. And they're great for everyone. I mean, nuke suppliers need them, hobbyists need them. They're really handy. They're lightweight. They're really good to move bees around in. Awesome boxes. Great idea. I like what Cayman is doing. Anura is supporting as well. There's uh, Bruce Bees. Lots of Greg Burns. Lots of guys are supporting innovation right now, and we need more of that. It's easy to make fun of people when they have a bright idea or they come up with something, but if you think about all the tools and the things that you use that you really like, that was somebody's idea at some point, and somebody probably laughed at him. So it's important to stay innovative. The larger scale you are, the harder it is to break away from things like that for some people, because you don't want to waste money, and you don't want to deviate from the KISS method, keeping it simple. But innovation is awesome. It's what makes us human, and that's how we come up with great products like the Jester Nuke boxes and the T post toppers. Okay. Sourwood Branch says, my cows stay way clear of my bee stands. I had a yard that had stands of 4x4 posts on blocks. Hive on 1 TG. I don't know what that means, but I've never really had bees around livestock, so I've not had to deal with those kind of problems. Um, Back in the mountains, I had problems with bears, but really wasn't a whole lot you could do about that. Electric fences, but if they decided they didn't care and they wanted the bees more, then they would just bowl right through it. Let's see, did I miss any question? If I missed your question while I was rambling on, just throw it back out there and I'll try to catch it again. And if it's not too much trouble, you can put them in caps and I'll see them even better. Cayman Reynolds, a lot of opportunities for companies with new product. Word can get out fast now. Yeah. YouTube's great for that. People can demonstrate what they're using, what they're doing, what they're seeing. And guys, if you see something you like and somebody's doing it, support them on it, because I've had a few great ideas, and it takes a lot of resources and time and a lot of money to get a product off the ground. I've been putting a lot of time into my frame spacers, and it's just not a project I'm sure that I'll be able to get off the ground. It's very expensive to do things, especially if you want to have them made in the USA. It adds so much cost. It's kind of discouraging. But if you want an American made product, um, you got to pay for it. Cayman Reynolds, how much comb money are you going to produce this year? Well, my goal is 60 supers. I would like to do 100. I'm prepared to do 100, but I doubt I'll get that. Comb honey is definitely something that you want to build your market for. I'm confident that I can move that much. It's not something you want to store. It has to be frozen. Uh, it crystallizes very easily because of all the little particles in there. So it's something that you want to move before the fall hits. Um, and as far as smaller containers, I really won't be doing a whole lot of small containers. I really prefer to sell it in the frame. It's a lot easier for me that way, and it's hard to move that much product. Like if you're moving one frame, that's one frame, but you got 7 cuts out of that one frame. That's 7 more customers that you need to have. I'm trying to develop retail outlets for it. Feasting Grays in downtown Memphis, Christina McCarter's business. She does the Craft Food and Wine Festival. She used to do city tasting tours, and she has Feasting Grays, which is a charcuterie cheese board service. They do custom cheese boards, grazing boards. They do catering, all kinds of innovative things with nice little snack items. She sells comb honey for me there. That's the only store that I'm selling comb honey in. I've tried to hit some grocery stores, the smaller ethnic grocery stores, but they don't really want to pay what I would like to get per container because these comb honey containers are very high. Most of them around $1 or more per container, even with a very large order. So there's a lot of cost involved in comb honey. So it's easier for me. I want to do more boutique sales, and I'm coming up with some packaging uh, from based off some stuff I saw in European catalogs for national frames, the British national frame. So I like the idea of selling it in the frame. Let's see. Okay. What do you think? Malcolm says, "What do you think is the best way to bank 20 queens if it's going to be a few days before you can get to them?" You know, I'm no expert on that. I have very little experience with it, but I do have some. If you use the JZBZ equipment, the JZBZ cages, they plug the candy plug down, plugs into a bar. You can place these bars. I built a banking frame. It's a wide frame, just a very simple. It's got ears and it's just square. It's nothing fancy. Anyway, it's cut out, notched out for these trays to slide into. So then you can plug your queens in. No attendance. Candy plug is facing down, so it can't be eaten out. And then you'll bank them in a queenless hive. So it's pretty cut and dry. I don't really know much other ways. I mean, you can lay those bars directly on top of. You put a super on top of a strong, or not necessarily strong, but strong enough to care for the queens that you have. You just put an extra box on top so that you got the head space and lay those bars, those JZBZ bars, right on top. Um, Pretty much you're putting a caged queen where the candy can't plug can't be eaten out. You can use the little pink caps, or you can plug them into the bars. Hope that answered your question. Russell Trammell, where have you been, Gus? I know you've been busy in the Bay Yard. Glad to see you back on. Man, yeah, I've just been busy. To be honest with you, new customers are wearing me out, man. I want to get their bees to them, and I'm late. I'm behind. Uh, I have to deal with a lot of emails and calls and texts. I go by a list. I don't take deposits. A lot of Nuke suppliers will take a deposit. I've tried that and it didn't work out for me. I feel like when I take a deposit, that the customer feels like I owe them something, which I do when we make an agreement. I feel like I do owe you product, but they feel that I'm beholden to them, that I need to make more effort or whatever on that part. So I don't like taking deposits. I go by list. You get on my list, you get wrote down. I go by the order on that list. If you got on my list and it was March or February, and you think that was early enough, it really doesn't matter. It goes by the list. So you may be number 75 or something. You know, I really don't sell a whole lot of 100, 150 nukes. Um, so it's just it's a stressful time when you're behind. This year has been one of the worst ones for me as far as nuke production. I've had to deal with um, cooler weather shutting nectar production down, which caused me to have to feed. I did a lot of baggy feeding, but I've had some issues. I did some things I knew better than doing. I fed some nukes in a hungry yard. I fed the production colonies at the same time, but I had some robbing issues there. I had some chilled queen cells early on, and then dragonflies have started earlier than I have ever seen. The tanagers are awful, so that I have predation issues. So it's just agriculture and it's just farming. I've had some exceptional years where I get nukes out to customers in April, and that just tickles me pink when that happens because I feel like I've done something. Because everybody wants their bees in April, and it's really hard to do that in just about any part of Tennessee, honestly, if you're making your own queens. Sourwood Branch says that he has good, or she has good luck putting them in a queenless nuke on a bar. So it's pretty much. Troy, how is your spring flow going? How long does your flow last? I'm located in between you and Cayman. All right, so spring flow is almost done. I was in a bee yard today, right outside of Collierville, uh, and in the shaded areas, I noticed there's quite a bit of privet that still had buds and had not flowered out. But privet is on its way out. Black locust has been done. Um, Tulip poplar, if there was any, it got annihilated in the last few days. Um, so it's going to start tapering down for the hill country. You know, Memphis is called the Bluff City because it's on a bluff, it's on a higher level. Uh, Coming back in toward this way, uh, I guess toward Mississippi on out like through Collierville, it is hill country. So it's not good honey country. It's just not. The soil is not as good because it's a higher level. Across the river in West Memphis in Arkansas, you have it's an alluvial plain, the floodplains and all that river basin. It's super rich soil, so it's like a different environment. You get this in Tennessee as well. So if you look at a map and you see how the bluff goes, it goes on up through toward Millington and Shelby Forest. As it gets on up through North Memphis and Millington, you start getting some of that river bottom land back on the Tennessee side of the river, and even more so as it goes on up toward Dyersburg, which Dyersburg is a very good um, honey production area, good for commercial beekeepers going on up, toward Kentucky in northwest Tennessee. It's an excellent honey production area because you have more of that, that river bottom land on the Tennessee side of the river. Uh, the Memphis metro area is kind of a special area because the Memphis side is higher on the Tennessee side. So it's all about the soil. I know I'm rambling. It's about the soil. So the spring flow is almost over in the hill country, but it is not almost over in the bottom lands because you have sumac, you got poison ivy, um, pepper vine, red vine. You got a number of wild vines that thrive. Um, Clover is going to start as it gets hotter. clover's going to dry up, and it's going to be over in June. So most people, you'd be pretty safe in this part of West Tennessee, pulling mid-June, pulling your honey off, because you're going to start getting into a pretty serious dearth. But if you're in the river bottom lands, you're going to be going on into the summer honey flow, which is even stronger than the spring flow here, because not only do you have natural forage, but your row crops begin to bloom. So it's a significant honey flow. Let me scroll up here. Mike Berry, I had to put a 10 frame comb super between two 9 frame supers. You see any issues with straight comb? I've only ever put it under a 9 frame above a 10 frame. So I don't have any problem with um, having an 8 frame super above and below. Well, 8 frames in a 10 frame box with a 10 frames in a 10 frame box dead below it. I only run 10 frames in my comb honey supers because if you run less than 10 frames in your 10 frame supers for comb honey, most your comb will not fit in a standard container. If you use like the hard shell half cuts or full cuts, if you're not running 10 frames in them, then your comb's going to be too fat in a lot of cases. And you'll have to put it, just makes an ugly product. It's messy. You don't want that. Um, so straight combs and comb honey supers. A lot of guys will tell you that you can use a small starter strip, and you can if you're going to babysit it. Anytime I've used a small strip, like leaving a small bit of comb for them, they bird the hell out of it. Just cross jump frames, and then I'm in there cutting it and wasting time and money. Um, you want a pretty good starter strip. If you're going to put a starter strip in, put something that's at least a couple inches, something that they're not going to jump. Um, if it's less than an inch, then there's a very good chance that they're going to jump and cross comb that. And that's just a waste of your time and theirs. Look, it's the famous Mike Berry. Are you famous, Mike Berry? Malcolm. Thanks. I didn't know if a queen right or queen. Oh, well, for me, queenless. I suppose. I mean, I suppose it could be done in a queen right colony above an excluder. And so, I've had some success with queen right cell builders, so I don't see why not. But I would imagine you would have much simpler time and easier time with queenless, because I mean that's all I have experience with banking queens is with queenless colony. Medic 58 says got cows knocking his hive overs. Any idea, man? I guess give them something they can scratch on, a tree, a post, or something that they can lean on other than hives. They're just laying up on them trying to rub on something. Give them something else to rub on nearby, I guess, or put a fence around it. Wayne's honeybees. My grafting is not the issue, but successful mating flight is. I only get 30% success rate. No dragonflies yet here in Cincinnati. Um, Wayne's honeybees, I don't know what your process is, but I would encourage you to look at how good your cell builders are and how well fed your cells are. Nutrition is the biggest thing in queen rearing and producing good quality queens. It's so important because these queens, they got to take several flights. They have to have a lot of energy and a lot of vigor. They get knocked to the ground when they get mated and got to come back up. And these queens that you find laying out in the grass is because they're weak. They don't have the energy for it. And I think a lot of times that's because they weren't a well fed queen. You may hear a lot of people talk about um, it's an inferior process, raise emergency cells or letting a small nuke raise them, and they got these little dinky cells, and they just didn't have enough bees to get that queen cell fed. It's a legitimate thing. And that is the problem that happens from that. Yes, sometimes you get mated queens back, um, but she's inferior. The the better fed she is, the more you're increasing her chances, her odds of making it back and becoming um, a successful queen for you. So uh, if that's not your problem, you may want to look at identification on your boxes. I have better success in weedy uh, yards that I face with brush and things in front of them, just things that they can identify, different paint schemes. But I, first place I'd look is your process and seeing, making sure that these queen cells are getting all the royal jelly that they can get and need, that they're really well fed queens. James Miller, I sure would like to see a video on how you set up your hives for comb honey. Well, I will make it. I don't make comb honey in the spring. Uh, because of where I'm at, I really, most of the time, I have the luxury of saying, I don't care, forget the spring flow, which is what I did this spring. As my bees built up later, it was more important for me to split hard and get my splits done and get my nukes built up, and get my hives built up because I have a summer flow. If I didn't have that, I would have to completely reevaluate what I was doing and do things differently. So just keep looking and you will see that, but it will be later in June and possibly um, July before it gets released, but it'll be later in June. I won't be putting comb honey supers on until I'm into a soybean flow. Sourwood Branch asked Medic 58, what kind of stands do you have? I guess that could matter too for cows knocking them over. I notice a lot of people have their production colony stands up really high. Um, and it's nice to work bees that are waist high, but if you're making any honey, then they're going to end up on the ground. What kind of packaging do you use when selling a frame of comb honey? Gary Rose. Gary, it has been an evolution. Um, when I first started it, I was told to slab it out into a bucket, and that's how they wanted it. That's how they, being the Middle Eastern customers that had been sent to me from an old time beekeeper that produces comb honey. And I quickly found that they did not want it that way. They did not want it slabbed out, all mashed up, gross in a bucket. And it was just a waste of a good super comb honey. Uh, I originally started selling it in the whole super. If you didn't buy a whole super, then you wasn't buying it bulk. You bought the box and all. Take it. Um, but wood prices have jumped, so I quit doing that. Now I just do the frames. I have done them in cardboard boxes that are the correct size with some peanuts in there. Wasn't satisfied with that. Um, I have tried taking the deposit on supers and getting them back. That didn't work because nobody cares if they got a $10 deposit on it. I mean, they just bought $350 worth of honey. They don't care about $10 box of wood. Um, I've tried these large aluminum pans from. We got a restaurant supply company here called Lit Juniors, and they have a lot of restaurant equipment like the Rolly deal with the baker sheets that I use for comb honey. They also have packaging supplies. So I get these large aluminum trays and I will slab it out of the frame. And generally, I do this in front of the customer. I don't do it before. And they will fit 3 combs like this, and it's got a little plastic top. They're too flimsy. I don't like them. Um, I'm looking now at this system that you put it inside of a wooden frame and you heat shrink it. It's something that I'm looking at. I don't want to talk a whole lot about it because I haven't got it all hammered out yet. That's just a ever evolving process for me on how I get comb to the customers. If they bring it and they want it put in something or slabbed out in something, that's fine. But I don't do that until they have paid me. Um, and you have to be careful too when you're selling it by the frame. A lot of times your customers they'll want to see what they're buying, and of course I would too. But they'll handle your comb very roughly, and then they don't want to buy the ones that they boogered up. They'll stick their fingers in it or whatever, you know. So um, it's just trials and tribulations of selling, and then when you're trying to think of the political ways to say things. My biggest comb honey customers are predominantly Yemeni and Jordanian immigrants. I do not speak any form of Arabic, um, and most of the time they don't speak a whole lot of English. I have met and befriended some Yemeni businessmen that speak excellent English, and they really helped me out with their countrymen. Um, but if you want to do comb honey, in my experience, your market is not American clients. Typically, Turkish, Middle Eastern, um, Ukrainian, and Russian. Uh, Eastern European, but very few people in the United States, or at least around here. I have a lot of people they want chunk honey, and chunked out comb in a pint or a quart, but whenever I make a bunch of it up, I have a hard time getting rid of it. A lot of people want it, but they don't really want to buy it. They want to look at it. They like looking at it and they like reminiscing about it, but they really don't like the way it eats. So they'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember when Papa," and spin it around and look at it, and then they put it back on the shelf and they walk away with a pint of liquid. So I keep it separate, and I don't even remember what the original question was. Uh, packaging, packaging for comb honey. Let's see. Whoa, I'm behind and I lost it. Duh, 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 duh. I'm having to start my honey frames from foundation. What is the best way you have found to get the bees to draw out the frames? Man, you need a balanced hive. It takes young bees. So when your hive achieves this balance, if you're starting from nukes or whatever, or what have you, they're going to pull comb. It's just a natural progression of things. Um, if you're wanting to get foundation pulled out in your honey supers, I find even though I run full foundation comb honey supers, it's a different thing. Um, when I'm wanting to get extracting frames drawn out, I run 8 frames of extracting combs in my 10 frame boxes. When those go on the bees, I put 2 frames, sometimes 3. It depends on how I'm feeling. I put 2 in the center, and it makes it a 10 frame box again. So put that on the bees. I come back a week later in the flow, and I pull 2 frames out. It doesn't necessarily have to be those foundation frames. It could be any 2 frames. As long as they've started those foundation frames, they're going to finish it, because that's one thing you can guarantee about bees. If they start a job, they will finish it. If you give it to another set of bees, they will finish that job. It's getting them started on it that is the problem. But once they start, you pull 2 frames out and space it back 8 frames. Then the next super you put on, it'll be 10 frames again. They'll draw out 2 more. But as I go down the line, I'm putting these 2 frames that I'm pulling into an empty box, and then that'll go on a hive, and I'll space it out. They'll fix it that way. It's much easier for colonies to pull out these center frames like that than it is for them to pull out an entire super of foundation. So I hope that helps you. Mike Berry used to live in Brighton. I'm assuming Tennessee. Russell Trammer, will moving a swarm trap onto a hive stand and stacking some branches around the entrance and removing the hardware cloth after dark worked to have them reorient to this location. Where were they originally? Like if it's nearby, then they're going to go to where they were. Um, they don't care about that branch you stuck in there. That's some Michael Bush stuff. Um, they're going to fly right around that branch and go back to where they were going. You can lock them up for a few days if you can. If you've got a shop that's air conditioned or whatever, you can lock them up for a few days and then put them wherever you want to. When they get released and open back up into that situation, they're going to orientate themselves to wherever their new spot is. You may get a few scragglers that go back, but not much. They'll figure it out. Kent Vernon, hello from up here in Albert, Canada. I don't know if that's the same as Alberta, but we're just in the field tonight feeding the world. It feels like summer finally. Bees are loving it. It's an amazing time of year where everything is happening, everything is producing and going. It's awesome. It's good for your spirit. Let's see. Just some chit chatting. Dominican beekeeper. Have you ever introduced a mated queen into a hive and she did not lay any eggs for 2 weeks after introduction? No, I have not. I don't know what's wrong with her. Is she constipated or something? But I have not had that issue. Even ones that aren't mated, they lay eggs. Um, and never for that long. Like I used to use a Nikot system, and sometimes you'd put them in that thing, and they absolutely hated it, and they did not want to lay it. But it'd be 3 or 4 days, and eventually she'd just start spewing eggs everywhere. There'd just be eggs in I mean, all kinds of them everywhere. But no, I have not dealt with that. Mike Berry is not famous. It's a Mr. Ed inside joke. I will note that. Must have missed something here, but Medic58 talking to Sourwood says he's not sure. He was thinking some type of other animal as well. Would a skunk or raccoon knock it over? I'll be going out tomorrow to strap them down to the bricks. I have never had a raccoon or a skunk knock a hive over. A raccoon is has incredible dexterity, and they can get a lid off, but I don't think that they have the strength to knock one over. I've never seen that. A possum either, or a skunk. Skunks really are tiny animals. I don't know if you've ever really been around skunks, but they're not very big and they don't have much weight or anything to push around. They got some claws on them though, and they'll do a number on your paint job on the front and on the board. You can tell if you got a skunk, you can always tell the one from the smell, and two because they scratch the dickens out of the front of the hive because they come up at night and they scratch on them on the front and make the bees come out and eat them up. And raccoons, you got a raccoon because things will be shifted and moved, and they just defecate everywhere. They're a disgusting animal. Um, then they have decent size excrement for the size animal they are. They're just such a pain. Dan Schneider has had one hell of a bad spring frost again last night. Just wondering how the season is farther south. Man, early on it was just these cold day after cold day. It'd warm up and then it would cool back off. The cold snaps were really they played hell on nukes, but it wasn't just the colder temps. It was just being steady cool because plants don't really produce much nectar when it's cool like that. So having to do a lot of feeding and it really stalls out buildup, especially with certain kinds of bees. I think everybody knows I run Russian bees, and they're very environmentally sensitive to flows and things. And them jokers, man, when something shuts down, she shuts down too. I mean, quick, boom, and it's takes a little encouragement to get them back going. These types of bees that are more environmentally sensitive, more pollen and nectar flow sensitive, man, it's just a struggle in the spring when things are yo-yoing and or if it cools off and shuts down. Let's see. Wayne's honeybees. Thanks. So feed better and earlier and identify. Um, I believe you were having the queen return issues. Uh, yeah, just examine that. And I mean, if you find that your cells are fed well enough, then that's not the problem. Um, if you're using queen castles, I don't. I've never had any luck with queen castles. Some people have outstanding luck with them. I do not. I like to have just two holes and space and then another two holes. I don't like things close together like that because I always end up getting them going in the wrong hole. Cayman Reynolds just emailed Jester for pallet pricing. They don't have that on their website. Well, hopefully, Cayman they'll get back to you before the next Hive Life conference. They are slow on emails. Just FYI. Um, Cayman says, "What about Russian queens in your future with them?" I'm super excited about what I have going on with the Russian Breeders Association. I've for a long time I've had an appreciation for Russian honeybees and what the USDA did, the whole program, the collaborative and cooperative program. Um, I really wish that Brother Adam had been around to explore and document and do some write ups on this too. He has some really good books on different bee varieties and everything. To my knowledge, he never wrote anything on the Primorsky bee. You can piecemeal some of it together from the different strains that compose the Russian honeybee and kind of get an idea on some of his thoughts on some of it, but how it came together. Um, anyway, I have complained about Brother Adam's writings. I know if any of y'all know me, I know he's a dry read, but still, it doesn't mean it's not good information. I have acquired my assigned lines for this year. You're as a Russian breeder, you're assigned two lines that are yours uh, for your life in the association. So I've acquired my assigned lines, and I'm just working really hard on building colony counts with those two lines and getting as many set up and growing as I can so that I have stock to evaluate. Um, the Russian Honeybee Breeders Association releases queens from different lines every year. My lines, my assigned lines are not release lines for next year. I have acquired um, release line queens that I do have to propagate from as well and evaluate so that I have good stock. I mean, these are excellent beekeepers, well respected men that are sending me these queens from their operations. So I'm not knocking them or saying that I'm no more. But I personally do not just randomly graft and raise a bunch of queens off something that I haven't had a chance to evaluate. So I'm working hard to get these stocks built up so that I can really get a good evaluation on them. But anyway, I know it's a little boring for a lot of you guys, but I'm excited with it. You only know so much about Russian bees when you get started, and then you get accepted in as a member, and you get more information thrown at you. And I'm just geeking out with it, and just excited. Cayman Reynolds last pallet price I got was 9.25, but they always say that they can change prices steady going. I don't think that price is good. I not this year. I don't because they were over $10 this year on the pallet pricing for multiple pallets. At least unless unless they like you better, and if that's the case, I'm gonna have you order them for me next year. Mike Berry, yeah, my comb honey sells slow, very slow at retail. Chunk honey sells a little bit better. It's all regional. That's why you can't just depend on what I'm telling you or what Mike Berry tells you or Cayman Reynolds or anybody. You got to get out and find your market. You have to develop your own market. It may be different than Gus Mitchell's. For me here though, chunk honey, it's just not that good. Back in East Tennessee in the mountains, people love chunk honey. Uh, just not. It's hard to get the extra value too. Say you're retailing a pint for $10, which is a pretty common price. Um, Wholesale is $6.50 or something anyway. So then you have um, what size chunk of honey that actually looks good fits into a pint jar. It's about a 2x4 chunk that makes a good looking jar of chunk honey. Okay, you retail that 2x4 chunk at $10 as well, and then you also probably wholesale it around $6, $6.50 as well. So what would you have to sell that for retail? It just it's hard to get the value back that way. For me, it may not be for other people. So hello, Lindsay Homestead Farm. Oh, now I lost it all again. Dead blasted. There we go. What? Sorry, guys. I was reading YouTube administrator. I got a warning for homophobia violation, which whatever. I don't think I said anything like that, but put them in the box. That's some Michael Bush stuff. Yeah, everybody has beekeepers that they're fans of, and everybody has beekeepers that they're not fans of. So I'm not a fan of lazy beekeeping. So Lindsay Homestead Farm. Gus, have you ever seen anyone run 8 frames in a 10 frame super? Yes, sir. Me all the time. I run 8 frames and a feeder in my 10 frame brood chambers, and I run 8 frames in my 10 frame honey supers. The only boxes that I run 10 frames in are if it is pure foundation frames or a comb honey super. JD, hi Gus, how do you deal with laying workers? The way I deal with laying workers is typically I will pull the nuke box out and stand it up on its end as I'm going down the row. And when I'm done, I come back and I shake all the bees off the combs and put the combs back in the box, close the entrance, and that's that. They beg into their other nukes. I don't really get a whole lot of laying workers because I try to fix the problems beforehand, but sometimes it slips through. I did run an experiment this spring, and I've had a couple success stories with it where I was using the 48-hour cells. I've had bad luck doing anything else, and I was just trying it out. I said, "Shoot, I had some extra cells, so why not? Let's see if this tried." And of course, I made good notes on the lid, and it's weird because it was super confusing. You have to really look for the queen because you're going to have eggs, so you have to verify that you actually got a mated queen back from that. Then you also have to wait for it to become sealed worker brood, and then on top of that, you end up with the drone capping brood and stuff that's all interspaced in between it. So you have a kind of a mess to sort out in a laying worker hive. If you do get it back queen right, it takes some looking at. And really, it's not worth it. I just shake the bees out. But sometimes we like to play around, experiment with stuff. What's up with the YouTube administrator? I really don't know, man. I'm not homophobic at all. I really don't care what other people do with other people. That's their business. I must have. I don't know. I have an accent, so maybe they picked up something a different word than what they was thought. I really don't know. How do I get some Russian queens in California? Well, the Russian Honeybee Breeders Association has around 12 members, um, and only a few of them sell queens. I'm working into that myself, but I believe Austin Smith, who is the president, sells queens, and Coy Honey Farm sells queens, and Stephen Coy, who is related but has his own company. He also sells queens. Um, I don't know about the northern guys really, uh, but either Coy and Austin Smith sell queens. So most of your other ones are smaller, smaller operations, and they do nuke sales and things. Queen sales are a real pain, especially if you're dealing with just a few customers at a time. I mean, not a few customers, but just a few queens at a time for individual customers instead of a whole big deal. But if you're interested in Russian bees, I would recommend you email, get on list. It may be a little late this year. Most of them are booked up on those kind of things, but I can't brag on them enough. They're excellent bees. Do 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 do. There, I just timed out the fake YouTube administrator. Uh, I guess we are talking about queens. You know, I try to stay on track. I'm not very good at it. If I confuse you, just holler or I'll try to get back to it. But if you were going to requeen your hives after you pulled a queen out, would you put a new queen cage in or wait till the next day? Um, Time is an issue. So she's in a cage and it's more of an issue of whether you would remove the plug over the candy or put a piece of tape over the candy. Um, you may want to do that. You may block them from being able to eat her out. In those JZBZ cages, she can get away from the bee pressure, so they can't just harass her to death. So you're fine. And if it's good candy, it should take a few days. If you were to wait, kill the queen and wait and come back and all that, you're adding a lot of labor, man hours, and things to your operation. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. Let's see where I was at. Queen cage. What kind of live stream is this, Leah Phelps? Well, it's just a random beekeeping chat from a bored beekeeper. So if you have any questions about bees or honey or something like that, throw them out there. 103 watch. Oh wow, it's 106 watching. That's really good. Thank you guys. Mike Berry says, such good bees. The Russian bee got my first from Dr. John Harbaugh. Honey misers, and they manage the store so well. They're excellent bees. Dr. Harbaugh is just like legendary in my mind. He had he done great things while at the USDA, and he's still doing great things. There is nothing else that I know of that compares with the Russian Honeybee Breeders Association's program. But Dr. Harbaugh has started a cooperative for VSH queen breeders and is working towards a very similar type of collaborative effort. And I think that's what it takes to um, produce amazing queens and keep on. Thanks, Cayman. Craig Midget. Hey, folks. Gus, you ever used hog half comb? I'm trying one this year and having trouble getting the bees drawed out. It's on a strong colony with 90% full super above it, blue blood. I have never used Ross rounds and I have never used hog half comb. Um, I'm a tightwad and I don't like spending money on things like that. Um, I really just prefer good old fashioned shallow super with thin top bars and um, then surplus foundation. Uh, I just rather do it cut comb, I guess. I see the appeal of the the half comb system. I see the appeal of the Ross rounds. It's just more things for me to have to buy and store and keep track of and cry about when I can't get it. Just in. Do you know why bees sometimes are darker than other times? Yeah, because she mates with up to 15 or more different drones. Some people say a lot more than that. So, unlike a horse or a cow or sheep or things where it's a one on one mating, um, she's mated with many different drones from different backgrounds. And as she's laying eggs and inseminating those eggs, uh, different different bees pop up with different traits. The Do you sell bees? I do sell bees. I sell five frame nucleus colonies, and I sell um, a little bit of queens. Silly question: do bees get any bigger after they emerge? I really haven't paid a whole lot of attention to workers. I wouldn't think so, really. For queens, yes, they definitely do. A lot of times when a virgin comes out, she will be pretty good size, and then the next time you see her, she will be tiny. Then the next time you see her, she'll be a little bigger, and then she really plumps up after she gets laying. So, uh, especially with the queen. Stephen R says Nuke's still going to be ready in a few weeks. I have been releasing Nukes. It just depends on where you are at on my list. If you are further down on my list, then uh, it just depends on where you're at as to when you'll get them. It could be into June. Um, I have some that I've been releasing. I'll be releasing more this weekend, and as it continues to go on. So, Chris Masurka, no one in Canada carries Russian queen bees. Well, in a way, they do. You have Saskatraz bees, and Saskatraz bees are knockoff Russians. So they have a high percentage Russian background, and they say they have carniolan and AMM and other things in them that, but those are also things that compose the Russian bee. So essentially, they're just a rebranded and probably not as good Russian honeybee. And some people may come after me for that. I don't know, but that's my opinions and thoughts on it. How is the Russian honey production compared to other bees? Have you seen a difference? Tristan Osborne. Yes, Russian honeybees are very industrious bees, and typically there are studies that you can read. They're online. You can look at the USDA publications on their website. You can purchase a book called Russian Bees by Dr. Renderer. There's studies in there that also show you, but yes, they are more productive than the Italian colonies that they were trialed with. But in my experience, they are very much so more productive than any other kind of bee. They do more with less bees. That's just how I feel about it. Jelly neck. I have an entire yard that swarmed and have filled their second brood box with capped honey. Now they won't move up into their third box, that is the honey super. You probably don't run queen excluders, I'm guessing. Um, you're just going to have to spin honey out and give them empty comb in there and open up space. They're honey bound. I like running single brood chamber management and running queen excluders because you don't have that issue once you have got everything split up. Um, all you're going to have is from wood to wood brood and some pollen down in there. They're not going to plug that brood chamber up with nectar like that. You're not going to end up having that kind of problem. Craig says frustrating problem. Local area here is high amount of resources. Four hives. They're nectar bound. Can't draw fast enough and totally out of drawing. Tried shaking out nectar, but filled right away. Oh well, yeah, you're on a strong flow, so that's what they're going to do, and they can't draw out that foundation quick enough. It's important to be ready before the flows happen. I know as a new beekeeper, you don't have equipment, you don't have combs, you don't have all this stuff, or not necessarily you, but just in general. So these are growing pains that everybody deals with, especially with stronger flows. I think it's great to run resource hives um, in your apiary that you're just getting combs drawn all the time. Comb is gold to the beekeeper. It's how you fix a whole lot of problems. So um, always, even if you don't want to have but a certain number of hives, run you a few nukes that are pulling you out comb that you can take and keep and build your comb supply. Can you please tell me where you got those thin top frames for cut comb? I have searched everywhere. Um, if you search my videos, I explain and give the contact information and everything. That is, I apologize if he's watching. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. Geez, guys, if any of you guys remember, let him know. He is near the Amish, near Tennessee Alabama line. Skipper Luttrell. His name is Skipper Luttrell. Um, and if you watch my video back on that, you'll be able to. I talk more in depth about it. I don't remember the details off the top of my head, his contact information and all that. I believe I have it in the description in that video. Um, his name's Skipper Luttrell. He's small time equipment builder. He does a great job. He's a really good guy. Um, he'll build you whatever you want, not just those. So yeah, Skipper Luttrell. Jellyneck, I am consider. Oh man, now I lost it. That bless the comments. They just shot up on me. I'm considering rotating the third honey super and second brood box and run a single brood nest. Um, do it, man. I think you'll be happier with it. Greetings from Southwest Florida. Hope you all have fun spending time with your bees. Really enjoy your videos, Gus. Keep them coming. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. I have slacked off, but I'm going to get some more content out. Craig, putting more medium supers won't solve his population will start crashing. Can't get queen accepted with no room to lay. Yeah. Bro, what climate you recommend for bees? Man, they're adaptable. So you can run them from Mexico to the top of Canada. It's up to you. What are your thoughts on the standard frames versus those with smaller foundation patterns? Talking about small cell foundation, I'm not 100% on small cell. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's solving any problems. If you look at a wild colony, there will be um, a wide variation in cell size and cell structure. Not only just talking worker cells and drone cells, but within the worker cells themselves, the worker cell sizes will vary greatly. I personally believe this is because different bees hold different positions and they need different size workers for different size tasks. Um, I could be completely off base. I'm not a scientist and I'm not really studied much. It's just an educated opinion. I think you do have healthier bees if you run a mix of stuff. And generally, as comb gets older, they reshape things and move things around. So I think it's a good thing to have some variation in cell sizes in your colony. I don't know about necessarily using small cell foundation with bees that have been on bigger stuff, you may run into some issues. But just in general, with wax foundation, you'll find a lot of variation, especially in older combs, as they chew them down and move things around and resculpt the edges. You even get that to a certain degree in plastic as well. Cayman Reynolds sent me here, and I love it already. Well, Cayman is a good friend. I appreciate Cayman doing that and spreading the word for me. He's a good dude, and he does a lot of good things, and I appreciate his generosity and recommending other people's channels and not viewing them as competitors or anything like that. I'm not saying me personally, but just other people. I know I'm not the only person that he recommends. So, um, Cayman has a really good view of a community, a beekeeping community, and he's worked really hard on making that a reality with his conferences and his social media and his online dealings. So, kudos to Cayman on being that kind of person. Dominican beekeeper. Am I the only one looking at this live while I'm in my apiary at night? You probably are, man. I don't like dealing with bees at night because they do that crawling, biting, stinging deal, and it's no fun. Uh, I move bees at night if I have to, but man, Zooks. I have some boxes from Zooks, and Skipper Latrell is really close to Albert Zook. Um, Albert Zook is an Amish man, and I respect his life choices. It makes it difficult to get a hold of him. You have to write him a letter. Mr. Luttrell, you can pick up the phone and call him, and his equipment is every bit as high quality. Um, I'm not saying one over the other, but Skipper's a small businessman. He's trying to make things happen, and he's reputable, and he does a good job. And he'll build you whatever you want. You just got to give him time to do it because he does work another job. I think he works for the railroad. But Zooks have amazing equipment. I really like the Cypress stuff. I have a lot of mediums, Cypress mediums from them. Joe Jackson, thanks for the videos. What are your thoughts on Better Comb? My second year and have no drawn comb, and they are getting honey bound, which promotes swarming. You know, I've seen Better Comb. I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's expensive, but if you've allocated funds for your hobby for that, I think it'd be a great thing to try and experiment with. And if you do, make a video and show us because I personally I've never used it. I've never seen anybody put it in their hive, and I'd love to see it other than on a display table. If it works the way that they say it will work, then it'd be a pretty good thing. It'd be worth the money. Do I feed during dearth and do I pull fall honey? I I don't have a lot of dearth. My honey flow doesn't end until October. Um, if you're feeding during dearth, you have to be very careful. You want to feed everything, and you want to feed in the evening. If you feed early morning, then anything you spill, you got all day and stuff. If you feed in the evening before dark, then the bees have time to clean up any of your mistakes and messes without risking robbing frenzy. So I would recommend when you're feeding during the dearth that you feed in the hive and that you feed in the evening and that you feed everything because that feed does put off an odor. And do I pull fall honey? Yes, I do pull fall honey. I pull some fall honey. Um, my fall honey is gross to most people. Uh, Cayman and Natalie came and pulled out one of my fall honey jars for his tasting, which I've seen him much better honey. That really wasn't fair, but I do have customers that really prefer the strong, dark fall honey. It's supposed to have more antioxidants. It's supposed to be more medicinal and better for you. But just for me, the flavor's not really there. It's a little bit harder sell, but I do have people that like to buy it, so I do harvest some of it. Don't forget Cayman's contribution to the bluegrass music community. Well, I'm a little harder on Cayman on the bluegrass music because I am from Southwest Virginia, and he does a good enough job, and I'll leave it at that. I do love the mandolin; it's my favorite instrument. I wish I could play one. Better comb works, but it is a crapshoot as to what it will be used for. Spin out what you have. I live near Zook. You know what town Skipper lives in? I may be close to him. He lives in Lawrenceburg, Lawrenceville, Lawrence. It's the. I'm pretty sure it's the same town. Um, if y'all are from there, forgive me if I'm butchering the name. I can't quite remember. I think it's Lawrenceburg. Seems like bees get mean after dark. Yes, they do. How do you feel about Apime and styrofoam hive bodies? I really don't feel any kind of way about them. I don't have any. If I had them personally, I would have to have all of them. Um, I don't like a mismatched look. It really gets under my skin. So if I were to try one, I would have to have a yard of them, and that's pretty pricey. But they seem like great equipment, and they're really cool and neat. So give them a shot. What's your favorite cell cup color? Smoke. The gray cup. Yeah, I think royal jelly contrasts well in the gray cups. I think we're talking the same color. It's smoke. I like them the best. I don't know why. I switch it up. It really doesn't matter. I use what I got, but I mostly just use the smoke color ones. Peter Zook told a local beekeeper that he can't get cypress anymore. Family shut down the sawmill. Hmm. I don't know anything about that. I'm not in the know on that. That's a shame if it's true. Rex Johnson, I have had luck with better comb. They don't put brood in it too fast, but will store honey in it for sure. I'm in my second year and don't have a lot of drawn comb. Hey, if they'll store nectar and honey in it, then that'll free up their other comb. So, do I save honey frames for winter feed? I don't save them per se. If they're in the hive and they get fat off of the fall flow, then that's all well and good for me. But I don't pull out honey frames and store them um, as feed. Can you reuse the cell cups? Well, Zach Heintzelman in Hawaii, uh, who is an excellent queen breeder, says that you can. Um, Zach has a supply chain issue that we don't have here. For the cost, I think you're better off just buying new JZBZ cups. If you're looking to reuse cups or be more sustainable, I would probably look more into wax cups because you can make those yourself just as easily and scrape things down and reuse your wax. But Zach, I think he bulls. He has a strainer. I may have this wrong. I've asked him about the process several times. I think he boils them in a side of a strainer and then puts them back up. And I don't think he wax dips them again. I don't think he puts a wax coating on them. But I do believe that he has to prime them in the hive. One of the primary draws to me for JZBZ cups is you use them fresh out of the bag and the bees jump on them. So if you're having to prime them in the colony and all that, you might as well use wax cups. I would think. That's my thoughts. Yeah, Lawrenceburg, Etheridge, or Zook still have cypress for one who spoke of it. I think Peter Zook is Albert Zook's kin up north. Um, Skipper, I think he uses the same sawmills. He buys from the same places. So Bearded Bee Works. Hello, man. I've had some pretty good questions and discussion so far, so you may want to look back at it later. Um, I just realized that we've been talking almost 2 hours now. Let's see. Have you used your wax cell cups yet? I'm sort of concerned about them falling from the bar. Yeah, I have not used those yet. The ones that I stored did come off the bar. I did not attach them well enough. Um, and I just haven't played with them enough yet. I really would like to. Um, I think I need a thicker wax base because I think that's going to help me when I go to remove them. I've seen people using small wood squares and other things. I need to do a little more research and ask around on those a little more on the wax cups. Do you have feral swarms in your apiaries? Do you treat them different than your others? Yes. Um, Last week I split a hive. It was one of my not a hive, a yard. I split a yard. It was the last one that I split. They were my worst yard, slowest build up, highest winter losses. I split everything in that yard but two resource hives because a storm rolled in and it was a rough one. I just barely got out of the yard. I come back the next day and there was a swarm hanging off of rough leaf dogwood, and I shook it in the nuke box because I knew for sure. I just was positive that they come out of those resource hives because they were strong, and I just knew if I didn't get them split that they were going to swarm on me. And then I was down to the last two, and I had to go, and I just knew that that was it. Well, I got into those resource hives and I started splitting them down. I found the queen in both of them and marked her. So I don't see that swarm coming from them other hives because I split the stew out of them. I split them down hard and I requeened everything because I wasn't happy with them. Um, and it wasn't a big swarm; it's a decent sized swarm. It had a mated queen in it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think one of the best swarm attractants there is a bee yard. Um, and how do I treat those? I get rid of them as fast as I can, give them away, or pinch the queen and give them a cell or whatever. I don't tolerate them. I don't keep them around to cross my fingers and hope that they'll be the next best thing when I have already have some really good stuff in my bee yard that I can be propagating from. But yeah, sometimes you end up with a swarm in your yard and you think that it's probably yours and it may not be. And of course, they may be your bees from last year because, we all lose a few. Um, if you put the cell cups back in the hive, the bees will clean them up. I've tried it. I've tried boiling them, but they get distorted and misshaped if the water gets too hot. I do believe Zach mentioned that. I said boil, but I didn't quite mean that. I think it just mean hot enough water that you will get the residue and stuff to come off of it. Excuse me, guys. I'd like to widen old JZBZ cups with a drill and then insert the wax cups into them. I like the way the JZBZ cups secure themselves to the bar. I do like the way they secure themselves to the bar also. That's why I switched from wooden bars to the JZBZ cell bars with the little holes and everything. They're very secure. Try it out, Tim. Let us know how it works out for you. I've never even tried to put a wax cell cup in there. I didn't know it wouldn't fit, but it makes sense that it wouldn't. Excuse me. Like Gus said, for the cost, it's easier and less time consuming just to buy new ones. It is, if that's the way you want to look at it, and that is the way I look at it. But like we were talking about earlier with innovations and things. If you're doing beekeeping for profit, it's a little different than doing beekeeping for pleasure. When you're doing beekeeping for pleasure, you have it's your hobby. So that's part of your hobby is trying different things out and new things and experimenting and just playing around with stuff and seeing what you can make stick. How large can a bee yard be? Is there a limit to how much an area can support? Yes, very much so. In the hill country around here, um, man, if you have probably over a dozen colonies, you're not going to make much honey. In the delta during the summer flow, you can't have too many colonies in a yard. You can have over 100. You could probably have a couple hundred. But as soon as that nectar flows over there, you're going to have problems. So you kind of got to figure out what your balance is and what you have planted around you because it's going to depend a whole lot on your specific area. And even within Shelby County here, it's vastly different. One end of Shelby County over here in Collierville is extremely different to North Memphis. Um, we got the Wolf River Bottoms in Collierville, and they do okay, but still, you're not going to be able to have more than a dozen colonies and really make any surplus honey. Excuse me. There in North Memphis, you have the Loosahachie River and the Wolf River, and then the Mississippi River. So the Loosahachie River and the Wolf River is running into the Mississippi River. It makes a triangle. Excuse me, I have a little cough. It's getting hot in here. Um, so it makes a really interesting piece of land right there, and it's extremely fertile. And you really, I can't imagine what count you would need. You could run 40, 50 colonies right there. I mean, it's an amazing place because you get the benefit of all those rivers, and the soil is just amazing. You have a spring flow, a summer flow, and a fall flow there. C.S. Steinbuck, can you tell if a queen is mated just by looking at her? I would like to think that I can. Generally, a virgin is her movements are different. She's quicker on her feet. She's more sporadic, excuse me, in her movements. Um, and generally, she's smaller. There are some massive virgins, but they're usually very fresh out the cell. They tend to shrink up and get into an athletic physique when it's time to get mated. When do you add your supers for cut comb honey? I added some a few weeks ago, but they won't touch them. I put the comb under a nearly full super. For me, I wait until my summer flow. I have made comb honey in the spring flow, but for me, it's more reasonable for me to split bees and make more bees and sell bees than worry about a spring honey flow when I have such an excellent summer honey flow. My Russians seem to build up super quick in the spring. You get a lot of splits early spring trying to keep them pulled back. I'm single brood now, but when I had Russians, I was in doubles. I think Russians are excellent bees to run single brood chamber management in. Um, I split them back twice usually. Uh, I go down to 3 frames of brood each time, so I split them pretty hard. They do build up very quick when the flows are on. Like I said, they go from 0 to 60 and nothing flat. I mean, just they do more with less bees. So JP, the Delaware bee man, said he 3D printed adapters that fit JZBZ bars if you just want to use one bar in a hive. They work well. 3D. I don't know if it's because it's getting later, but I'm having difficulty imagining exactly what you said. How do you do cut comb honey? Um, that is a really long question to answer, but essentially, you make honey very quickly in comb form, virgin comb, and you cut it to whatever desired shape that you would like, and you sell it as pure honeycomb. Time for bed soon. Work comes early in the AM. Um, Typically, I would be up earlier myself, but I happen to have a doctor's appointment in the morning, and it makes it a little bit later of a morning for me. Wish I had been able to pick up that nuke on Saturday from you. I must have called you when I had a no show, but no worries. If you were on my will call list, um, I will call you when somebody doesn't pick up their nukes, and inevitably it happens. I will be harassed for months about it, and then when it's time to get their bees, they don't have the money, or they caught a swarm or something, or they just ghost me and don't say anything. So it happens every year and multiple times. So I always have nukes on pickup days. I wouldn't say always, but often I will have nukes on pickup days that are unclaimed. Um, and I do give option to the next person on the list, but often they don't answer. So when I call, I don't leave a message or text because I don't want to obligate or confuse or anything like that. If they don't pick up, then I don't mention anything about the bees. So that's why if I call or something and I don't leave a message, if you call back, I say I had a nuke. I don't, because I'm looking to sell that nuke. I'm looking to move that immediately. I'm not trying to tie it up for the rest of the day, um, if that makes sense. Best way to combine a queenless swarm. I recently, with a queen right 2-frame nuke I made. Um, if you have a colony that is queenless and it has been queenless for a period of time, they will gladly join with a queen right colony. Now, if your queen right portion is smaller than your queenless portion, you do run the risk of them killing your queen. If your queen right portion is much stronger than your queenless portion, you're really in no danger of any kind of problem. So I say just combine them. Um, if that does not work out for you, I'm sorry. It works for me. Do you use foundation for cut comb? I use starter strips for cut comb. Tennessee small waters to small woods. Glad came and sent me, and I caught the live. I subbed and will go back and watch your videos. Good night, and thanks for them. Hey, thanks for coming on. I didn't post that I was going to be doing this. I was just a little bored and wanted to talk bees, so I thought, hey, I'll hop on and see if I can get anybody on here, and I'm glad I did. Dirt Rooster. Hey, Gus, just saw that you're on. I'm headed to bed. Have to watch you on replay. Have a good evening. Well, I appreciate you for popping on, man. We've had some really good questions and discussions so far, so I'm pretty pleased with how it's went. Sounds like you really need that comb honey video. A lot of these I have went over it, but like everything in beekeeping, it takes multiple times for people, and um, really once you start doing it, and it changes your viewpoint on what you've heard or read or done once you actually start putting your hands on it and doing it. So I mean, it takes a while. What do you think of the two queen sets people are doing? So I have ran two queen colonies, and I find that they can be more productive and they can make a little bit more honey. It's usually not like wow, that's insane or something like that. They'll make a little bit more honey. One thing I have noticed with every one that I've done and every time that I do it, is that they get meaner than junkyard dogs. I mean, nasty. And I don't know why that is. I guess because the bees are sharing or whatever. But when I have a two queen colony, not two queens in one colony, two separate colonies that are sharing honey supers, they get ill, boy. I mean, just not fun at all. Uh, so, and I run into that a lot with my resource hives. Um, what about two queen colonies as resource hives? Generally, they're side by side, but they're usually separated by supers. I have independent four frame supers. If I run out of supers or I don't have a super in the yard or they're doing better than I want, I'll throw a queen excluder on them and put a 10 frame super on it and let them work it. One important thing to remember is that there is an up and down on your queen excluder. You have wires that run this way, then you have less wires that run this way for support. Those wires keep a little bit of space above the top bars to provide a little headspace for the bees to move. That is the bottom. If you're putting these on a resource hive or a two queen hive to combine, you want to actually put the top down. It's the flat side down, or you can actually get the queens crossing over and end up with one queen hive. Pat Gooch, when making splits, when, how, what do you do about mites? What I do about mites is Russian honeybees. I treat for mites once a year. I treat in the late summer after honey pool. I do not treat my nukes. I do not treat in the spring because it's not necessary for me to do so. If it were, then I would. Um, Fortunately, I feel like I'm seeing fruits of my labors with mite resistance and heavy selection process and having good stock. So I don't have that problem in the spring. So I can't speak from experience there. I guess if you wanted to, when you make up your nukes, you could put an April bar strip in there. And I think I'm caught up on questions, except for the last one as what, but I don't know exactly what you mean by what. So, and I'm getting a little hoarse. I think we're all caught up. Oh, you had no idea about the queen excluder. Yeah, there's an up and a down. Now, that's with metal excluders. Plastic excluders are not like that. Plastic excluders are flat on both sides. If I had one in here, I'd show you, but metal excluders are not. What's your go to grafting tool you like the most? I've been using Chinese grafting tool because they're inexpensive. Just ordered a master grafting tool and a German grafting tool to try out. So my go-to is the Chinese grafting tool. Like you, I like it because I scoop up the chili. I do have to go through a couple to find the one that I like, but uh, I just really like the Chinese tool. Um, my friend Anura at Pierce Beekeeping um, has talked to me about the master. I think it's the master grafting tool they sell, um, and I'm supposed to be getting one of those. I'll give it a try. I'm not opposed to it. I've only ever tried the JZBZ tool, and I've tried some homemade tools, but I always end up damaging the larvae trying to get them off. John Smith, thanks for having us again, Gus. Hoping to see more from as the season goes. Privet is just starting here in Middle Tennessee. What is your current flow? Right now, Privet is on. It's kind of wrapping up though, and we'll be coming into sumac and and vines here real soon, and then soybean very soon as well. Oh, and some places, for me anyway, like the flower farm, Witten Farms, Vitex will be starting pretty soon. They got flower heads on, and I love Vitex honey. It's very good. They have so many planted at Witten Farms and such thick hedgerows of them that I'm actually able to make a varietal crop of Vitex honey there. I have a new Nuke. I've tried twice to move it to the deep. The Nuke is crazy. Any suggestion? Smoke doesn't seem to help much. The other Nuke was calm. Um, Suit up, smoke them, and just put them in the box. And maybe put some feed on them and see if they calm down. And if they don't, you might want to look into requeening them. You run Russians only. What do you think of other breeds? I don't like Italian bees because I'm not migratory. I don't need a bee that ignores all environmental cues and will not shut down and will starve itself to death over winter uh, or even in the summer. So I am not a fan of Italian bees. Carniolan bees. Russians are Carniolan bees. They are a subset, a different type of um, Carniolan bee. Caucasian bees, in my opinion, are a type of Carniolan bee. Um, and these type of bees are definitely more sensitive to the environment and the flows. And these are better bees for people that are stationary, in my opinion. These are bees that will shut down when they have nothing to work. Have you heard of the deformed wing virus spread by varroa mites in Europe? Yes, we have that here. We have a couple different types of deformed wing virus, really. Um, that's generally the problem with mites is the viruses that they vector. Does it help to make bees queenless during a strong honey flow? Does this help make comb honey? You know, that is a method, an old method, and um, it does work. But it is a lot of work, and I don't find it necessary. Um, it's called a cut down split. You can look that up and read about it. It's been done for a long time, and it is one way to do it. Um, but it's not a preferred method by me. Tulip poplar and black locust is on here in Antioch. You must be a couple weeks behind me because black locust has been dried up. My Vitex are in bloom in North Louisiana. Oh, I like to hear that. That means that I'm probably less than 2 weeks out. And Privet is wrapping up. Privet is wrapping up here too. I love Vitex. Do you get much honey off of the Vitex where you're at? Do you have enough for a flow? Bev Stutzman, a friend suggested to spray them with sugar water. What are your thoughts? If you spray them with a light sugar syrup, they will not be able to fly. They will not be able to fly up and sting you. But depending on where you're at, if you're in a dearth, which I can't imagine where you'd be, that you'd be in a dearth right now, um, you can have problems from that. But yeah, you can spritz them down with sugar water. They'll just keep them out of the air. Malcolm, I'm hoping that you will make a video this fall on how you like to prepare your single hives ready for the winter. I know that there has to be brood space and the rest packed with honey. So, Malcolm, when I pull my honey supers off and I push these bees back down into a single, there's a lot of bees. And there's a lot of bees hanging out the front door. Um, but this is primarily field force, and these are older bees, and they're going to drop off dramatically over the next month. That population is just going to drop down considerably. So there will be way more bees than can fit in the hive when I'm stripping them down, preparing for singles. That's also during the fall flow, so they're packing it in, and they're packing honey in, and they're shrinking their brood nest down at the same time. But I'll also be feeding lightly as well, keeping her laying as long as I can, so that I have a larger winter population as I can have. If you allow them to shut down too soon, then your winter population isn't very large, and you come into spring with some really tiny clusters, and they'll make it and be fine, but they are very slow to build up. Um, so, do I have any tattoos? No. As one I picked up hates my black ones. Oh, tattoos, black tattoos. Um, bees seem to not like dark stuff because maybe some kind of instinctual bear thing or predator or something like that. That's the way it's always been described to me. I'm not sure if I buy that completely, um, but they do seem to not care for dark objects. So I mean, that could be a thing. Curie, I just planted Vitex last year, but my friend I got them from planted about 3 or 4 acres, and they hammered them. 3 or 4 acres of Vitex. Oh my god! I plan to plant more this year. Vitex blooms twice a year, which is a plus. Yes, it blooms all summer. Um, like I mentioned, the Vitex hedgerows at the flower farm, they are on a flower farm, and Miss Jill, she cuts those for bouquets and for other arrangements. And when you cut the blooming head off of Vitex, it will rebloom. So these things bloom all summer. They're awesome. And 3 to 4 acres, if densely planted, would make you at least a few barrels of Vitex honey. Sorry, folks, but what is sighted? Never heard. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I have some iron on patches to close up some holes in my bee suit. Bees always go after the dark patches. I have used those iron on patches as well, but they don't. The adhesive, I guess I sweat too much, but the adhesive doesn't hold. I mean, it works as a temporary fix for a little while, but they always end up um, coming back off. But I use those large white patches, iron on white patches. Yeah, no problem, Malcolm. Single brood chamber management is more labor intensive, and it can also bite you in the tail if you don't do it properly. You can have your bees swarm out, but I prefer it. But I like to. Um, I'm pretty strict in the way I manage things, and I don't like chaotic things. Like in my orchard, I prune heavily. Do I know the flows for the Nashville area? I mean, I could pretty well guess them. I've never lived in Nashville, but yes, yes. But I mean Vitex. I'm talking about Vitex. Uh, I have an accent, and I'm also a little choked up here. But yeah, happy to find a good bee channel. Just getting into bees myself. Well, thank you, and you will enjoy it. There is so much that you can, so many rabbit holes you can go down in beekeeping and explore different things, and it's amazing. You can just, I mean, you can really geek out on all kinds of stuff with bees. Yeah, the key is to put a patch on the underside too. They come off it. Okay, that's what I'm doing wrong then. I may give it a try, putting a patch on both sides. Do you have any Saskatraz bees? If not, are they good honey producers? I do not have any Saskatraz bees. As a member of the Russian Honeybee Breeders Association, you are not allowed to keep other strains of bees, and I have not for a long time. Um, Saskatraz bees have a lot of Russian influence in them, and if that is any indicator, then they would be good honey producers. Black locust, blackberry, honeysuckle privet, and I think sourwood. If you're talking about Nashville, sourwood is not going to happen. Um, Primarily black locust and tulip poplar, uh, Chinese privet, and then you're probably going to be in a dearth. Then you'll probably go on to have goldenrod in the fall. Yes, Vitex is also known as a chas tree or chasteberry tree. It has a lot of medicinal properties. It makes an extremely light and floral, fragrant, perfumey honey. It is a very good tea honey. It's a really good seller, excellent quality. Um, can't say enough good things about Vitex. It's a beautiful shrub, makes an excellent hedgerow. The bees love it. They get a lot of pollen. They get a lot of nectar. Uh, Pretty much all pollinators and butterflies, everything loves Vitex. The only bad thing I can say about it is that it's not a native. I'm in Nashville and we are well past blackberries. Yeah, tulip poplar is over. I'd say the rain beat it off the trees. And privet is finished. Privet's finishing up here too. Any idea how much honey per acre Vitex produces? I don't have any information on that exactly. The flower farm at Witten Farms, they have a few pretty good sized hedgerows and then a kind of a random planting. I'd say all in all, you're looking at least an acre, maybe two or so, but you probably get, I'd say you could probably get 2, 3 barrels off a couple acres of Vitex honey, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly how it would work out. It probably depends too if it's like irrigated or things like that as well. But it's very prolific. What about bee friend tick treatments for apiaries? I'm not familiar with that at all. Vitex sure is a native here in Texas. Grows really well here and a drought tolerant. I got to plant some this year. Technically, it is not a native. It is considered. What's that word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. In Texas and Oklahoma, there are tons of it, and naturalized. Thank you. Naturalized. So Vitex isn't a native, but it is considered to be naturalized in Texas and Oklahoma because it just kind of took over and did its own thing. And the Oklahoma Forestry Department, I believe, offers Vitex seedlings for sale in their spring sales. Do you not treat for ticks? I do not treat for ticks. I spray off on my legs and boots, and I still get ticks. So grows really well here and drought tolerant. Yeah, it's a really tough tree once you get it established. It's super tough. Is it invasive? I wouldn't really call it invasive. It doesn't. It'll spread, but it don't spread like crazy. Um, some people may consider it invasive. Um, I got a different viewpoint on invasive than a lot of people. There are lots of things that are considered invasive that I think are really just naturalized at this point. That's just the way the world has evolved, and it's been the nature of man to bring things with them and change things. So I like Vitex. I wish there was more of it in Tennessee and Arkansas. Hey, Gus just grafted yesterday, right at the beginning of our flow here in Washington. That's a good time to graft. I like to always feed, even if there is a flow on, because you get bigger cells when you feed. I don't know why it matters that much. I mean, that cell builder can be packed out with honey frames and the flow just raging. Um, and you put a feeder on them, and they make bigger cells. I don't know. Malcolm, you have to be careful about which strain of Vitex. We bought some the bees ignore. Um, that's probably a good point. I use Shoals Creek Vitex. It's I guess a particular strain or variety of it. You'll see a lot of a dwarf variety for sale right now, and I've not used any of it because I want the taller shrub. Um, but the variety I like and I know that bees works is Shoals Creek. I actually, I'm really into plants. I like propagating and everything. One of these days, I would like to build a greenhouse beside my classroom there, and I would like to, as part of my business, sell trees and shrubs and plants along with bees. But Vitex would definitely be one that I would do, and it's reasonably easy to propagate. It's really not as easy as you would think from seed, but they propagate from cuttings and seed. Thank you for the information. How about black locust? I've heard they'll produce huge amounts of honey per acre. Yes, black locust is an excellent honey production tree. It is also a nitrogen fixer. They're great for the soil. I can't think of any drawbacks for the black locust. You can eat the blossoms yourself. So I mean, it's edible. It's a nitrogen fixer. The bees love it. The wood is it makes excellent fence posts. It makes beautiful bowls. You know, it's a great tree, and you can get it from most forestry departments. Your Tennessee Forestry Department, Arkansas, Missouri, most of them. Year before last, I think I bought 50 and planted 50 along the highway. So they're really vigorous, and it's a great tree, and it makes a beautiful light colored, excellent quality honey. Well, looks like I'm caught up again. We've gone about 2 hours and 20 minutes here, so I guess we'll start wrapping it up. I appreciate everybody coming on. Had a really good turnout, and we're holding a pretty good amount. So, also, I have a few sweet olive trees. I'm not familiar with sweet olive trees, but when we get off here, I'm gonna look them up. Sounds like an Apache helicopter hovering when I walk out around. Is that the same as Russian olive or autumn olive? Does it produce a cherry-like fruit in the fall? Locust and blue plastic clover. Uh, we got a little bit of time left on clover, but here in the far west Tennessee, um, man, it just gets so hot that clover's fried in June. A lot of vetch here as well, cow peas and things like that. And the bees work that kind of stuff really well. I was waiting to see if that sweet olive is like is anything like autumn olive, which is an invasive that is all in the coalfield area, West Virginia, Kentucky, uh, Virginia, and Tennessee. It was planted along high walls, kind of like a soil retention type thing. But man, they spread like wildfire. No, I guess it's different because a sweet olive is apparently an evergreen and an autumn olive is not. Uh, Malcolm says, "Thanks for your time." Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching and listening to me and giving me some support. I appreciate it. Most weekends, I offer classes at my honey house. I have a screened in classroom. I also offer beekeeping tours to the general public that want to see what bees are about. Um, it's a screened in classroom, and there's gloves in the walls, so you can actually have a hive experience without having to suit up or actually be outside. You're safe and sound in a big screened room and can hold bee frames and things like that. So um, hopefully I'll get more visitors to that. I got some things in the works on that too. Um, I got to make more videos. I was really good about it for a while, but I work by myself and I just get so busy. And the weather sometimes it's not that great, and I just think, oh, I'll make one later, and then I don't get around to it. But I appreciate all the people that have subscribed and watched my videos and all that. So I'm gonna do a better job for you. And listen tomorrow at work. Yeah, I do that myself. A lot of times I can't sit and listen to somebody else talk. It's easier when you're doing it yourself because it just runs on forever. But yeah, like when I'm out working, I'll just put the earbuds in and listen, see what I can catch up on. Yeah, I'll definitely. I try to do at least one live chat a month. I'm trying to do maybe two. I'll do a better job on posting about them. I'm really um, pleased with the turnout on this one with no without having posted anything about it. So I appreciate you guys coming. And like I said, this week I'm going to make a video on what you should get in a nuke, what I'm selling in a nuke. That's one idea I have, and then if anything else pops up, that'll be fun. I'll try to uh, video that. What's your favorite nectar for honey flavor? Sumac. To me, sumac tastes like if you ever had a dehydrated apple, um, like those dried apple rings. To me, sumac honey tastes kind of like that. They kind of taste like this dried appley flavor, and I really just like sumac honey. It's interesting. And then after that, it'd probably have to be black locust, and then top three. The third would be goldenrod honey from Southwest Virginia. My buddy Shane Mullins, he gets some of the best goldenrod, and to me, it tastes just like butterscotch. It's so good. It does not taste like my goldenrod down here. Well, thanks, Don. Um, yeah, I think Cayman a lot. Cayman and me been buddies for a number of years. He's a pretty good guy, and I appreciate his support and helping me get out there. So, well, guys, I appreciate the chat. It was fun. I was a little bored. I wanted to talk bees, and I definitely got that. And I really appreciate the support. But I think for now, it's time to relax and go to bed. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for coming.